This is the newsroom for Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tarzi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, President Irfan Ali reflects on the anniversary of the March 2nd, 2020 general and regional elections and his decision to create the new national award, the Order of Democracy.
This was the collective effort of many. It was the strength of character of many.
98-year-old woman now denies being raped, suspects released. Bell 412 helicopter to arrive in Guyana on Saturday. And in sport, aspiring CWI president not opposed to players choosing leagues over West Indies duties. With the news, I'm Kurt Campbell. We're glad you can join us. First up, today, Monday, March 2nd, marks 1 year since the last general and regional elections in which Dr. Irfan Ali and his PPP party was elected to government, but only took office 5 months later after a brutal elections battle. The battle surrounded attempts by key figures in the Elections Commission, backed by the APNU-AFC coalition, to rig the elections and keep the retired Brigadier David Granger and his government in office. In an interview with the Newsroom's Neil Marks, President Ali reflected on the elections period and his decision to institute a special award, the Order of Democracy, dedicated to those who fought to ensure that democracy prevailed. Here are excerpts from the interview.
Mr. President, thank you very much for joining us. Today is March 2nd. I wanted to ask you first about your thoughts as you reflect 1 year ago on what transpired.
Well, Neil, first of all, it was wrong, if I'm correct, it is just around the time I was interviewed by Fariza Hanif from Newsroom, exiting the polling station in Lenora. But those memories are still very fresh. For a matter of fact, the entire interview is still very fresh. But in reflection, I want to first of all thank you, the many other journalists, so many Guyanese, who made the results of this day that spoke to democracy and the freedom of the people in expressing their will. The work that you guys did, the way in which you defended today, a year ago, when the people expressed their will, the way you defended that will in standing up for democracy and ensuring we are here today to celebrate that day, I must once again say to you and all those Guyanese, especially our colleagues in the media, how grateful Guyana is, how grateful we are as Guyanese for the work that was done. But in reflection, today, a year ago, seemed to be, at this time, would have seemed to be a normal voting day. As you know, on March the 2nd, everything went well. It was after March the 2nd that we saw the plot that unfolded. So it is a very humbling moment today to reflect on March 2nd a year ago, when so many Guyanese came out and placed their confidence in me and the PPP to create a better future for them, to create a better future for Guyana, to create a better Guyana for all Guyanese. And that is humbling. I always reflect on many people who own nothing, who live in a very basic way, but who also dream, who also aspire. And the only way they saw realizing those dreams and aspiration was putting their confidence, their dreams, their aspirations in our hands, and trusting us, and trusting me and the leaders we have in government today to bring to reality their dreams and aspirations. That to me is humbling, That is the core, and it speaks to the core values that I take from March the 2nd, a year ago, when all Guyanese, so many Guyanese came out and expressed their will. And even for Guyanese who came out and expressed their will for another political party, they did so as a feature of democracy. And we respect that, we honor that, because that is what democracy is about. So on March the 2nd itself, that freedom to express the will was there. It is after that that we saw the plot that unfolded to try to steal that freedom, to try to steal that democracy. So in reflection today, a year ago is a day that will forever be in the history books of our country. It's a day in which, well, not in which, a day which gave so many Guyanese the opportunity to mark their name in history, to recommit themselves to the features of democracy, true freedom and liberty. So in reflection, it is a very humbling day. I woke up this morning and, well, I went to bed thinking about today. And I woke up in detailed reflection as to what transpired and the pain and anguish that came with the aftermath of March the 2nd. And in reflection, we have to be more than thankful for the Guyanese of all walks from all walks of life, different political persuasion, different ethnic group, different religious group, who came together, who spoke out in defense of democracy.
You announced this order of democracy last evening. Why that, and why not give awards in our set of awards already? Why did you feel this need to create this special award?
If it was not for the struggle for democracy, we would not have been here today, even to discuss awards. So I think it was significant for this generation and future generations to understand that there will be, in law, following the process, an order specifically designed to celebrate those who champion democracy and ensure Guyana remain democratic, and for those who would continue to contribute to democracy and advancement of democracy in the future. I think it is specific enough, it was a specific enough event that warranted such an award. And that is why we developed it.
And are you the one choosing who you will award, or will it go through that regular awards process?
No, this, I think persons have chosen themselves already based on the work that was done. But of course it will be a consultative process. But I think I don't have to, if you go back in history, you'll see all those who define themselves in that period. And you don't have to be a supporter of the PPP. There are persons who were part of other political entities. There were persons who were never supporters of the PPP, but they supported democracy. They supported what was right, and they fought for the will of the people. And they must be recognized for that.
Mr. President, it took 5 months for you to be sworn in, from March 2nd when these elections were held to August 2nd. Have you been able to put your hands on what it is that changed that particular day when this flurry of events took place and you became president?
I think it was the collective efforts of so many people that led to the writing that our international partners, US, UK, EU, Canada, who CARICOM, the OAS, The world was behind what was right. Guyana was behind what was right. And it was only time before the games of the oppressors came to an end. And that is why I'm so humbled. This was the collective effort of many. It was the strength of character of many. And that is why today is so significant. And the 5 months so significant for us. And that is why I have decided to have this order of democracy, because of the significance of the struggle, the significance of this period. This is a period all of us, we can't reflect on proudly. But sadly, it is now part of our history. Generations to come will read about it. Generations to come will go and look at Neil Mark's documentary, will look at Freddie Kissoon writings, will look at what different political actors. Similarly, generations to come will examine the conduct of who caused this, will examine the role of different players in this. And time is the greatest judge of events and things. But the time that it took for us to be in office is a tower of strength in us using our time in office for the upliftment and betterment of all Guyanese.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're watching the newsroom. Persons 60 years and above are next in line to be immunized with the COVID-19 vaccine. Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony, during Tuesday's daily COVID-19 update, said the homes of the elderly, both those in institutions and private homes, will be visited so persons can be vaccinated. The Health Ministry will be using the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security pension database to determine how many persons would need the jab. A donation of 3,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine from Barbados was first administered to frontline health workers. Guyana is set to receive 20,000 doses of China's Sinopharm vaccine this evening. Meanwhile, the health minister also spoke about Guyana donating vaccines to other Caribbean countries and whether members of the cabinet will be taking the jab.
We want to cover as much of the people in the front line as possible. With 20,000 doses means that we'll be able to immunize 10,000 people. So that's what we'll be using it for. So I think the Ministry of Social Services, they have a very comprehensive database. It's based on that database that pensions are being paid, and so they cover quite a lot of people. And we're going to be using that. We're also going to be taking the vaccines into the homes of the elderly. So wherever those homes exist, we are going to go there as well. They're kind of captive audience, so we'll be able to complete them very quickly. Right now, it's we have pegged it at 60 years and above. But once we get enough vaccines, we're going to lower that age range. So our intention, we are starting at 60 and above, but we can lower that as we get more vaccines coming in. The vaccines are going to be rolled out in different stages. First stage is health workers, all categories. Second stage, people who are older, so 60 years and above. Third stage, people with some form of underlying illness, so whether things like diabetes, hypertension, and so forth, and that might be even younger people. So if you are 40 and you have hypertension or diabetes, then you become eligible. So that does not have an age cutoff. The criteria there is that you are at risk because of the underlying illness. Okay. So we'll be able to do a lot of other people in that category. And after we have completed that, then we're going to go to other persons in the population.
Okay, Minister, thank you for that. Now we have a question we actually have two questions from the Guyana Times. They're asking if Guyana will be donating any vaccine it receives to any fellow Caribbean nation.
We haven't ruled that out, and it depends if, any one of those countries probably have a need. So we haven't ruled that out. So something that we can look at later on.
Okay. And their next question is, as persons who are often interacting with the public, will the first family and members of the cabinet be among the first to take this set of vaccines?
At some point, and His Excellency the President would decide when the government, the cabinet, would take the vaccine. But our priority as of now is to ensure that those categories that I've mentioned, that they get the vaccine.
After providing high-quality fabrication services to Guyana over the last 18 years, Industrial Fabrications Incorporated Infab is now the first local company to provide fabrication services for the construction of the third floating production, storage and offloading vessel, FPSO, that will operate in the oil fields operated by ExxonMobil and its partners.
The steel strike ceremony was held on Tuesday at Infab's Monrepo East Coast Demerara location. The ceremony marked a huge milestone in the growth of local content development of the oil and gas industry in Guyana. Infab will be providing cable tray support fabrication services and lighting and control station fixtures fabrication works for the vessel, the third FPSO vessel, the Prosperity, which is currently being constructed to produce oil offshore Guyana in the Payara field. The first, the Liza Destiny FPSO, arrived in Guyana on August 29, 2019, while the second FPSO, the Liza Unity, is also under construction. Infab's Managing Director, Jerry Max Gavaya, said during brief remarks that this is an amazing opportunity for the local company to showcase to international partners what they can offer.
Today's milestone is the accumulation of all the hard work we put in throughout those years. And we are proud to have the opportunity to demonstrate that we're fully capable of providing services to the international entities such as SBM Offshore and ExxonMobil Guyana.
President of ExxonMobil Guyana, Alistair Routledge, commended the local company for putting in the hard work to win the contract to provide services to an industry where quality and safety is most important. In 2019, ExxonMobil conducted a survey to determine what fabrication work can be done in Guyana, since the majority of the facilities used offshore are fabricated overseas in very competitive locations such as Singapore.
And it is an achievement to now see fabrication for the next FPSO, for the Payara FPSO, coming into Guyana to be undertaken here in Guyana by Guyanese workers is a very important milestone. And so big thanks and congratulations to you, Mr. Gavaya, and your team. The work that you've put in to be prepared for this, to win the tender, which Mr. Patso and his team put out for this work. So this was not just handed out, this was a lot of effort just to be prepared and to win the tender.
Meanwhile, General Manager for SBM Offshore Guyana, Francesco Prazo, described this transformational period in Guyana as the golden age. As such, Prazo said they are here to build bridges for the years to come and contribute to integrating the oil and gas industry into the Guyanese economy.
We set high expectations for suppliers. To become part of our vendors list, all suppliers must be successful in a high risk-based qualification process that involves multiple disciplines. The purpose of this process is to know whom we are doing business with and ensure that they can safely deliver the quality products and services that we need.
ExxonMobil and SBM Offshore said they remain committed to supporting well-equipped and informed local suppliers who can contribute to the development of Guyana. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Istanella Patpo.
We tell you now that days after a report was made and suspects were taken into custody, a 98-year-old woman is now denying being raped. According to police reports, an intense interrogation was carried out and the woman, in the presence of a social worker and detectives, vehemently denied being sexually assaulted. As such, the 4 suspects were released on station bail and are expected to report to the police periodically until the investigation is completed. The newsroom understands that the 98-year-old woman lives alone and was discovered in a battered state by her caregiver on February 23. The caregiver had reported that the woman said that she was beaten, choked, and had the suspects push their hands down her throat. The caregiver said when she was dressing her to go to the hospital that she noticed her underwear was torn and there was blood. The caregiver later found the blood-stained sheet and subsequently contacted the police. The victim was then accompanied to the police where a medical examination was done. The newsroom understands that the results of the examination confirmed that the victim was not sexually assaulted. The file into the investigation is expected to be completed today and sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions for legal advice. A whopping $163 million has been allocated in the 2021 national budget under the Office of the President to clear an electricity bill left by the Department of Citizenship under the previous APNU-AFC coalition government. Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs Gayle reminded that the building utilized by the department was the Stephen Campbell House located at Shiv Chandrapal Drive, border Georgetown. She said for the past 5 years that the APNU-AFC was in power, the Guyana Power and Light received no monies for electricity.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, please. Chairman, line item 6272, electricity charges. There's been an increase in this allocation, and I would request the Honorable Minister to give us an explanation as to what's the cause of this increase in the allocation for electricity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harman, for your question. This figure includes approximately $163 million that accrued over the last 5 years that weren't paid for the Citizenship and Immigration Building, Stephen Campbell Building, which is Office of the President. So that apparently for 5 years, no electricity was paid. You're very lucky to have got electricity without paying. But $163 million is included in the 232, Mr. Harman, to pay off that debt with the Stephen Campbell Building. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, please. Chairman, line item 6273. $10 million is allocated under this line item for water charges. Could the Honorable Minister confirm that this is water charges for the Office of the President only, or is this like the electricity situation that you're paying off other bills?
Mr. Harman, thank you. This water charges would include buildings under this program. So Office of the President, Citizenship Building, or what's called Stephen Campbell Building, and State House, and the villas, Castellani House, etc. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
With $25 million allocated in Budget 2020, the soon-to-be established Youth Advisory Council has received an additional $60 million in the 2021 national budget. Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs Gayle said the money is to ensure that the council is fully established this year. She said with the Secretariat established already within the Office of the President, the monies will fund the recruitment of a Youth Empowerment Coordinator and representatives from each of the 10 administrative regions. The Youth Advisory Council initiative, which is a PPPC manifesto promise and which was reiterated by President Irfan Ali during his inauguration ceremony, promises to allow young people the opportunity to help shape their future.
Committee Chairman, line item 6321, subsidies to local organizations. Under this line, I note that it has here, amongst the list of local organizations, Youth Advisory Council. Could the Honorable Minister please provide a organization chart for this group or body? I'm not too familiar with it.
Honorable Minister. Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Member, for the question. I'm sure you have heard that the President announced that he would be establishing a National Advisory Council on Youth. This is in the process of being set up this year with a Secretariat and representatives representatives from each of the 10 regions. So this figure that has been, the heading here is to include for a Youth Empowerment Coordinator and also representatives from each of the 10 regions. So it will be a Secretariat that will be set up. So it's a Presidential Youth Advisory Council. It's not an NGO. It will be an advisory council under the President. Is that okay?
You're watching the newsroom. 18-month-old Adina Ramkisoon died at the Georgetown Public Hospital Monday morning, a day after her father reversed his motor car into her at their Vrijdslust East Coast Demerara house. Regional Commander Senior Superintendent Mahendra Sinarayan confirmed the child's death to the newsroom. The commander said the father, Danny Ramkisoon, remained in a traumatized state but is assisting with the investigation. The commander stated that the file will be sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions for legal advice. Police headquarters had reported that Ramkisoon operates a home-based taxi service, and as he was about to leave home to pick up a customer on Sunday morning, he felt as though his vehicle ran over something. He stopped, exited the vehicle, and upon checking, he observed his daughter laying motionless under the left rear side of the car. A day before this incident, another similar incident at Mahaika East Coast Demerara occurred where a 20-month-old boy was crushed to death when his father reversed his motor lorry into him. The Bell 412 helicopter, which Guyana purchased from the United States as part of a foreign military sale, will arrive in Guyana on Saturday, March 6, 2021. This is according to Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs Gayle. She made the disclosure during the consideration of the 2021 budget estimates on Tuesday. Teixeira said monies have been allocated for facilities at Timiri where the helicopter would be housed. Monies for the purchase of the helicopter were set aside in the 2020 budget after the State Department approved the sale. The government went ahead and purchased the Bell 412 helicopter as part of strengthening the capacity of the Ghana Defense Force to conduct aerial operations. The helicopter will also be used to conduct maritime surveillance and patrol, search and rescue, interdiction, counter-narcotic trafficking, and transnational criminal organizations. Prime Minister Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips announced in his budget presentation Monday that the National Data Management Authority, NDMA, will increase internet bandwidth provided by government agencies and institutions.
Mr. Speaker, with an estimated $2 billion allocation for the NDMA over the next 5 years, the NDMA will continue to work to transform the delivery of government services and improve citizen quality of life through appropriate use of technology that fosters digital inclusion and public trust. In 2021, the NDMA will continue to focus on improving the quality of public services to citizens, expanding the reach of government services, and facilitating specialized ICT training to fulfill government needs. This is all geared towards providing increased access to internet and government services irrespective of geographic location or monetary status, and increasing ICT literacy. In 2021, the liberalization of the telecommunications sector and concomitant reduction in the rates offered by service providers will allow NDMA to increase the internet bandwidth provided to government, institutions, and agencies. NDMA will drastically improve its internet availability through the utilization of 2 independent providers. This now provides a redundant path for NDMA internet services. NDMA will aggressively be pursuing a fiber optic cable installation project across the coast to facilitate the expansion and reach of government services and replace the limited capacity of the current wireless option. Interconnecting communication towers will allow more capacity and reliability at locations along the coast. These towers will be used to provide improved access to internet services throughout community hotspots and hubs. NDMA currently provides internet access at over 80 sites in the streets of Georgetown, which are free and openly available to all. NDMA is further expanding its internet access to hinterland and remote locations with plans for more expansion beyond the current installations. Leveraging the existing and new fiber infrastructure in Georgetown, the NDMA will proceed to interconnect secondary schools with fiber, thereby significantly increasing bandwidth availability to improve the delivery of the school's virtual curriculum.
When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather, and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to the newsroom. Now for sport, we start things off with some cricket news. Aspiring Cricket West Indies President Anand Sanasi said he's not opposed to non-contracted players choosing to ply their trade in leagues around the world, but insisted it must be done in a controlled environment. Akim Green reports.
On numerous occasions, debates have raged on whether players can have the luxury of opting to play in various leagues worldwide as opposed to West Indies. Sanasi, who is also a current CWI director, indicated at a press conference on Monday he is not opposed to players doing such, but there must be some flexibility in them still committing to West Indies cricket. He was questioned if he would continue with the same open door policy the current administration has with the players if he is successful at the CWI election.
I don't see an issue of players not being allowed, but it has to be in a controlled environment. For example, let me give you an example. These things have to be decided by a board, by the way. This is not Sanasi making these decisions. There will be a vibrant cricket committee that make these recommendations. But what about this? If you say, well, you're open to the IPL, you're open to the CPL, because the CPL is our tournament, the IPL has been notched out in the calendar, right? And then pick two others and you can go. But outside of those, you need to make yourself available. Because when you check, if you take the CPL window out and you take the IPL window out, we're talking about almost 5 months of your cricket calendar being taken out. So you have the international, you have the other T20 leagues around the world and so on. When you actually sit and look at what will happen, sometimes the thought that's going through my head is that we can actually have a full-time team playing while either the IPL or anything else going on. We have to look at it.
According to Sanasi, CWI cannot look to restrict players when at the same time their participation in these leagues brings in capital to CWI.
You see, Cricket West Indies earns money from some of these T20 leagues through the player release program. You can't want to collect on this side and not release on that side, because what is going on? Also, you have to understand that territorial boards and clubs earn from those releases also. So it has to be a cohesive thing. But we must also have a core set of players always available for West Indies duty, right? Who are fit, who stats are up there, and so on. And those things have to be clear cut with the players.
He further reaffirmed the need for it to be done in an organized manner and explained that out of some of these leagues, West Indies can discover players for all formats.
T20 is a big thing in India. The IPL has grown to probably one of the biggest sport events in the world. And you look at who's playing in the Indian team now. The core is who has come out of that T20 background. Players would be expected to go and ply their trade and earn money. However, I would have an issue with a player on a full contract not being available. So what I would attempt to do is work with the players to ensure that the core players are available to you. Obviously, you have to give them their time to go make some extra money wherever and so on, because we cannot pay the players the kind of money they get on the T20 circuit.
In October last year, CWI President Ricky Skerritt dismissed the notion that players will be punished if they opt not to take up international duties with the West Indies team. However, in ideal circumstances, he hoped players would opt to play for West Indies instead of the numerous leagues worldwide. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
We tell you now that West Indies will face Sri Lanka in 3 T20 internationals, the first of which is on Wednesday in Antigua. With the core of the expected World T20 squad present for the West Indies, it will be an ideal chance to start fine-tuning player roles. Akim Green previews the match in this report.
West Indies and Sri Lanka have a well-documented history in T20 internationals. In 2012, it was Sri Lanka West Indies defeated to win their first of 2 World T20 titles. In 2014, they knocked West Indies out in the semi-finals and went on to win it. Now they meet again to kickstart their preparation for the World T20 in India this October. The shorter the format, the more West Indies become favourites, and a short bounce at Coolidge Cricket Ground will be a delight for their power hitters. All 3 T20 internationals of the series will be played at the same venue, which is hosting international cricket for the first time. Not to mention, the majority of the West Indies players just concluded the regional Super 50, where numerous matches were played at Coolidge. Recent history favours West Indies, as when they last toured Sri Lanka in March last year, they won both of the T20s. West Indies coach Phil Simmons is also looking at this series as a step to start forming up the squad for the T20 World Cup later this year. This series will also mark the return of the 41-year-old Chris Gayle and the 39-year-old Fidel Edwards to the West Indies squad. Gayle last played for West Indies in the home series against India after the 2019 World Cup, while Edwards' last international appearance was a test in Bangladesh in 2012. Uncapped Guyanese off-spinner Kevin Sinclair could make his debut and partner Fabian Allen in the spin department. Sinclair's role with a new ball and his miserly economy rate is what catapulted him into the squad. With Shimon Hetmeyer absent, Lendl Simmons could drop 1 to number 3, which allows Gayle and Evan Lewis to partner, and the dangerous Nicholas Pooran at 4, and possibly skipper Kieron Pollard at 5 or 6. Jason Holder should shoulder Andre Russell's absence with the ball, while it'll be interesting to see if crafty left-arm pacer Obed McCoy gets to play. Andrew Matthews has been named Sri Lanka's standing captain for the series, as the son Shanaka, the appointed captain, is yet to join the team because of a delay in obtaining a U.S. transit visa. Matthews has previously led Sri Lanka in 34 tests, 106 ODIs, and 13 T20 internationals. The match tomorrow starts at 18 hours, and the other 2 T20 internationals will be played on Friday and Sunday from the same time. For the newsroom, Markin Green.
Now, T20 cricket's most prolific run scorer Chris Gayle is set to make a return to the West Indies team on Wednesday against Sri Lanka in Antigua. While there have been lots of attention on the return of the 6-hitting Jamaican, the left-hander said his energy is focused on helping the Caribbean side to win the 3-match series. Ultimately, the 41-year-old pointed out, the aim is to build momentum ahead of the World T20 later this year and lift the title for a third time.
First, we want to win the series, I know being back, it might be a little bit of attention, but it's, I don't want it to actually go in that regards, to be honest with you. We're looking at things as a team point of view. We have a strong captain, Pollard is a very strong captain. We have a lot of very, very good quality players within the team, senior players, and I don't really want to use a player youngsters as well, because these guys have played cricket so many years now, and it's just that actually we need performance at the top of the level. But I just want to win the series. Just want to get off to a good start. It's really good to be back, and like I said, hopefully I can perform and help the team and put the team in a winning position. I want to accomplish by start off on a winning note by winning this series. But the bigger picture is actually, to get 3 T20 titles, under my belt. So that's actually the goal. The goals. That's actually the goal I'm setting, ahead by winning the T20 World Cup. But we have quite a few series, coming up. So we have a lot of cricket, leading up to that as well. And we try and take as much as possible out of these series coming up. And again, get some momentum, leading up to that time, because the World Cup is still a long way off. But by the time you quint, it's World Cup time. So we just have to try and keep the energy, keep fit, and be ready and showcase, show the region what we're capable of with this particular group of guys.
Shimron Hetmeyer and Roston Chase have met the West Indies minimum fitness standard and are now available for selection. That's the word from Cricket West Indies Director of Cricket Jimmy Adams. Hetmeyer, Chase and fast bowlers Sheldon Cottrell and O'Shane Thomas had all failed the fitness test ahead of the selection of the West Indies T20 and ODI squads to face Sri Lanka and were subsequently overlooked.
We had done a press conference very recently, and we had explained that there were some players that had missed the minimum standard, fitness standard for selection, and it's just an update that 2 of those 4 players have since then met that standard. So that's Roston Chase and Shimron Hetmeyer. So they would now be available for selection for
I would say the next selection meeting would be around the test matches coming up later in March. So they are now available for selection.
Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says organizers are fully apprised of the conditions they have to meet when granted approval to host events. Commenting on the Guyana Motor Racing and Sports Club's breach of the National COVID-19 Task Force conditional approval, which saw them allowing more than the permitted 1,500 persons at the South Dakota circuit for the first round of the drag race meet on Sunday, Dr. Anthony said monitoring teams were on the ground and a decision was made to suspend all activities of the club.
A lot of time when the task force would agree to events, we normally would meet with the people who are hosting the event, and we explain to them what are the conditions that they must meet to host this event. Once they agreed and they show us how they're going to put those measures in place, then we will allow them to go ahead with the event. If, however, we sign off and allow the event to go ahead and then there are breaches, then obviously we would not be able to continue working with that organization. I think that's the case that we have here now, because we do send out monitoring teams to all these events. We would send people to go and observe and see what is going on and report back to the task force. And in this case, we have had monitoring teams that were on the ground, observed what was happening, took photographs and videos and everything else, and the task force would then make that decision. So the decision now is to suspend them from having any activity until we can probably have a discussion and decide on the way forward.
Finally, the Guyana Boxing Association, the GBA, has nominated Terence Poole, MS, and Sibert Blake to be considered to be part of the AIBA Coaches Committee. Poole, the GBA Technical Director, and Blake, the Chairman of the GBA Coaches Commission, were pulled from a group of local coaches. The two holders of AIBA 3-star certificates are part of a handful of regional officials to have made that grade. GBA President Stephen Inval disclosed that both locals stand a very good chance of making it into the committee. The Coaches Commission is one of several new measures implemented by the recently elected AIBA President Umar Kremlev of Russia. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. My name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching.